Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be chatting with you today, Chris. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Chris Anazuski, he is the top-notch real estate expert based in Central Florida. And trust me, he is the go-to guy for many agents in our local market and in the industry, really statewide. And starting from the ground up as an agent, climbing the ladder to become COO for a large team in Orlando, Florida, and now rocking it as Director of Sales and Operations for another major team in Florida. Chris has built quite the impressive resume, and I've been honored to work beside him and collaborate with him on various projects, including some branding and marketing for both team and personal use. And what sets Chris apart is his relentless drive to really stay ahead of the curve. He's always in the loop with the latest industry trends, rule changes, innovations, and his expert advice is super valuable, not just for buyers and sellers that he serves, but also for the team members that he helps lead. But what I truly admire most about you, Chris, is your client-centric approach. You really do have this innate ability to be so genuine when connecting with clients and agents, whether they're seasoned or newbies in the industry. You really are a shining example of leadership in the real estate industry. When so many agents are commission-driven and quick to get to the closing table, you really do foster this different type of approach, and you allow your expertise to shine while also creating these lasting impressions and connections with the relationships that you build. And I'm excited to dive into this conversation with you today, shine some light on some strategies for agents to navigate this whole NAR settlement, really using this change as an opportunity for how they can show up and reflect their value to their client. And with your wealth of knowledge and expertise and my real estate branding techniques, I have no doubt this is going to be an incredibly insightful chat. So let's just dive in. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Carolina, and for all your kind words. Maybe
Very true.
I'll take that clip and put it on my testimonials page, right?
There you go. See, they're all true, all truth. So take
Thank
away.
you.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
tell us about a little bit about you, where you're at right now, what you're doing.
Yeah. So, as you kind of brought up and alluded to, so my most recent adventure is I've joined up with the Carp Group out of Keller Williams Realty. They're a South Florida base out of Boca, Raton, here in Florida, and they are quickly expanding. They're doing amazing things. They're expanding here to Central Florida, and we partner with the local market center here for Keller Williams, and then also be expanding over into Tampa. And I've been privileged to be brought on as their director of sales and operations, and so everything from day to day to coaching to behind the scenes systems. As you know, that's kind of my bread and butter is technology and systems and how to leverage technology to, make our lives easier, but also, be able to better service clients as well. And yeah, I've come from a plethora of different operations and leadership roles, whether it's in real estate or prior there too. And also running my own team for a little bit as well.
That's right. That's right. Wow. Yeah, you've definitely, like I said, impressive resume. You've really compiled all of your expertise into, well, right now you're in real estate and you've just excelled. I've seen you, I've watched you grow, and I genuinely love cheering you on and seeing you grow. And I hear you that this team is from Boca Raton, and that's just a little shout out. I don't know if you know, but that's where I'm from. Boca Raton. I went to high school,
Florida.
middle school, and elementary school there. So that's funny. Small world, small world. But all right. So kudos to that. Congrats to that. You're on your next venture. And so I have a question. As a knowledgeable agent in the industry and with your credibility, how do you anticipate that the real estate market will begin to evolve in response to this whole NAR settlement? How are you advising agents to prepare?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many things that I think are going to change and things that this settlement touches on, but I'll just focus on a few or some of the major things that I've been talking about with our agents on the team or just agents in general. And I think the biggest effect is going to be on obviously buyers, and they're going to be faced with a choice now of will they or won't they use an agent, because now having to either potentially pay for their agent out of pocket or hopefully get some concessions from the seller in order to help, cover some of those or all of those costs, right? But that's not going to be a guarantee. That's the biggest thing, is going to be, will they or won't they use an agent? And if they do decide to use an agent, now that they're paying for it, their choice of who they use is going to be pivotal, right? It's going to be a choice now. A lot of times before it was like, yeah, I get one for free, so to say, right? Like I get assigned an agent. So I think the competition is going to be fierce, right? It's gonna cause a few things. One, some of those agents that were kind of part-time agents weren't really in it. I think you're going to see a lot of them go away, where it was a shoe-in before, where, oh, my former coworker, my brother, my sister, my mother, they're going to buy a house. They might not buy a house through their agent anymore, that person anymore, because now they have to actually pay that person. And so this becomes a business decision and not necessarily a personal relationship, right? Yeah, that personal relationship is going to pay a factor, but if it's hey, my services cost $10,000 for me to help you represent you in this, they might think twice and they might go to someone that has a better rep. The other piece is that just because agents are going out of the business, those part-time agents or whatnot, doesn't mean that the competition is going to get any less for the agents that remain. It's actually going to get more fierce, because now it doesn't mean that market share is just going to flow right to you as an agent or me as an agent. It's going to flow to whoever can represent themselves the best. And so that's where setting yourself apart from the crowd is going to be more important than ever. It's going to be just, and that's going to be through not only customer service, but it's going to be through, how do you market yourself? Is your brand recognizable? Is there marketing that's surrounding that person, that team, that brand, that brokerage that attracts those buyers to you and builds trust with them, so that way they want to do business for you and they say, this agent is willing to put the dollars behind, right? I'm pulling dollars out of my pocket now to have them represent me. This is a brand that I trust, right? Versus just in the past, they haven't had to necessarily pay for that agent, and therefore the choice was a little easier.
I agree. And I love the way you're framing that, as it is now a business decision, and it puts it into the onus of the buyer, and for them to make that decision and say, okay, well, if I'm going to pay you this, then what do I get out of it? What's the value? What are you bringing? What are you doing besides just opening doors, showing me homes? Like, you're going to have to represent and come at a higher caliber and say, yeah, it's not only negotiating skills, it's not just, scheduling, but it's all of these other components, knowing what's coming down the line, 3 steps ahead, and keeping your dream and your timeline, everything in sync with buying your home. And, if I want commission XYZ, and like you said, maybe the seller has the contingency of adding that on. Even on the other side of the seller, how long do you want your property to stay on the market? If you're not offering anything for the buyer's agent, then that's another aspect that comes into play. Of there's a lot of knowledge, and I feel like this is exactly what you're saying, of it's an excellent time for agents to know that, really soak that up, and be able to convey that to their clients and say, look, this is what's going on. It's not just what you're hearing on the news that you don't have to pay commission. There's more to it, which affects you as the buyer and also would affect you as the seller. And when you have that opportunity to really create, clarity around that for your clients and flex your value, now you're winning them over. And then you add that in with, like you're saying, a brand that they can trust, and even further, because if you think of a brand, you can think of a brokerage brand, but then how do you niche into, well, who's the agent that I want, right? So it's even more for that agent to say, hey, not only am I with a trusted brand, but I'm the expert that comes top of mind. Like, think of me when you're ready to buy, sell, invest, whatever, flip. So I love that you're framing it as a business decision all of a sudden. And it's valuable, for the agents to really show up at a different caliber. Yeah. Part-time agents, either step up, step it up, because
Yeah.
you're getting the handouts from your
And I
family.
think you touched on a point in there about clients in general. The public perception, right, is that agents are just door openers, right? Like, oh wow, they go, I schedule a showing, they open the door for me. Great. What else are they doing for me, right? That's been public perception. That's been the media's perception, or at least what they like to convey. It's clickbaity, that sort of thing. It kind of feeds the masses. But I think what's going to happen here is there's going to be a really quick realization that real agents, real professional agents that know their business, that hone their craft, they're much more than door openers, right? Because when a buyer signs that agreement, or when a seller, for that matter, when anybody enters into a contract, right, there are strict rules and timelines. There are contractual obligations that if you don't act quickly, in many cases, when you sign a contract, for example, it's like within the first 5 to 7 days, you need to have certain things done. In some cases, within the first 3 days. And if you don't have someone there letting you know you need to do this, or hey, this is your right to ask for this, or whatever it may be, those buyers or sellers are going to be in hot water, and they're going to be facing some lawsuits or and things like that. And so, but the key here is that one, that realization is going to come about, hopefully. And two, that again, when that does start to happen, that presence of brand and that trusted brand, it's going to be imperative because that's where, for those clients, because that's where they're going to flock to, right? And you want to be, as an agent, you want to be that person that embodies that, right? That when someone goes to my Instagram page, or they go to your Facebook, or they go to your Google reviews, or they go and see, your personal website, what does that represent? Like, do you have a cohesive image that goes, yes, this looks like XYZ product I trust in my clothing brand or my shoes, or whatever it may be, the cars that I buy, right? Is that someone that I want to do business with? Is that a business that I want to put my dollars into and do business with, and trust that they're going to handle me with care? Because now I realize there is much more to this thing. It's a several $100,000 or millions of dollars in purchases that are at stake here. And if I misstep on this thing because I don't know this contract, right, as a lay consumer, I could be faced with tens of thousands of dollars in lawsuits or problems.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love that you're saying that. It really comes down to a lot of that is consistency. How are you showing up? Show up in consistency, and you talked about like the car or a brand that you would wear, and just lending an ear to even out that outside of real estate. You don't see brands, Coca-Cola does purple one day and then red the next day and then blue. No, it's consistent. You always know it's Coca-Cola red. But they're consistent with how they show up in their market. People know their stuff. It's a super simple, idea, but a lot of agents don't do it. They're like, just sold. Oh my God. And I get it. A lot of agents, you wear a lot of hats, especially if you are a one-man team. I completely understand it, but it's more valuable as future growth for yourself to take a minute, even if you close on a Thursday, take the weekend, build in consistency, and post it on a Monday. Nobody knows that you closed on the Thursday. It's okay. It is better for your return of investment to really put in that consistent how you're showing up, wherever that marketing touches. You talked about website or Instagram, or, wherever it is, stay with consistency. It really does. It's a strategy. It's a strategy for agents. So I love that you're touching base on that. So, all right, so let's move on. You talked about really setting yourself, differentiating yourself out of the market. So in what ways do you really believe that new agents, established agents, these part-time agents, can leverage branding or marketing or any of these type of touches to really show up differently, to differentiate themselves from competitors?
I think you already said it, right? It's the branding and the marketing. I think a lot of agents just come in and say, okay, I'm an agent, like I'm just going to do business. Like it is what it is. They don't stop to think like, I am a business owner and I am the business, right? A big kind of soapbox speech that I always give to agents that I've had the privilege of working with is, are you thinking of your business as if you were opening a brick and mortar shop, right? If I were opening a store, I would want to have a look and feel for that store. I'd want to have a logo that matches that look and feel. I'd want to make sure I'm conveying, whatever it may be. Is there a certain type of clientele that I focus on? My brand should represent what that clientele is looking for. If I'm into custom home building and new construction, that's going to be one thing versus maybe I do general real estate, or maybe I do commercial. Whatever it may be, whatever that, hits to your heart and to your brain, maybe I'm in a coastal city, or maybe I'm here in Orlando where, I want to focus in on what Orlando has to offer, theme parks, things like that, right? I'm in luxury. Whatever it is, that's what you have to sit down and think about. I think a lot of agents just bypass that step altogether. Just go, I'm getting in, I'm just going to do it. They're going to know Chris Anazuski real estate. Like that's it. Great. Cool. But, never stop to actually go back and go, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Like, let's take a step back. Let's take a breather before we get to in the weeds here of like, all right, what am I representing? Is there something that I want to key in on? I want to make sure that's conveyed to my clientele if they don't know me from anyone, or even if they do, even if they are somebody I have a personal connection with, whether it's through past work or friends or family, whatever it is, but it represents like trust and understanding of the market and professionalism. That's where I think agents will have to key in on, and that's how they're going to separate themselves. One, take time to come up with that, right? And whether they come up with it themselves or work with a professional like you that can say, okay, I kind of imagine it like one of those bartenders you go to, right? And they're like, hey,
bracelets.
I don't know what I'm a mixologist, right? It's like, I don't know
Right.
what you
Yeah.
want. Okay, what sort of liquors do you like? What sort of flavors do you like? Do you like
Right.
sweets, not sweets, right?
They start
I'm gonna
narrowing it.
craft something for you, right? Based on the things, because, like, for example, for me, I'm very organized left brain. I'm not that type that's gonna, I can tell you ideas and things, but I'm not necessarily the person that's gonna come up with the look and feel and the brand and the logo and the marketing and everything that goes around that, that encapsulates all of that, right? And I think a lot of us are probably like that. And so that's why I think it's like, whether you do it yourself or and you have this skill set, or you find someone that does, right, to be able to say, hey, I want to come out the gates like with this brand, with this marketing, and help me set this up, right? Just like if I'm going to set up my store, how am I going to set this store up so that way people come into it, they go to my website, they makes them want to come in. That's where I think new, existing, wherever you are in your real estate career, you're going to have to focus. If you haven't already done that, if you've already done that, kudos to you, right? How can you double down on that, right?
Right.
If you haven't done it, figure out how you're going to do it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I love that you're touching base on that. And I love the barista, the mixologist. That's a
Yeah.
great, I'm going to use that one next time. I like that. I like to talk about the it's like a for sale by owner, it's like from a real estate, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you could sell it by your home, but by yourself, but why would you? That's the same almost idea of branding and marketing. When there's professionals out there that can help take that deep dive, narrow it down. Like, what do you like? What's your niche? You spoke about that. Is it luxury? Is it flips? Is it new construction? What is it that your zone of genius that you're getting into this industry for? Start, narrowing it in and building something around it it feels reflective of you. You feel proud of it because it is something that's reflecting outward. It's not reflecting just the industry. It's bringing your expertise into the industry, overlapping it, and then you're proud of it and you want to put it on everything. It's something that you're like, hey, that's unique to me. That represents me. And while we're talking, I actually have your branding that I'll just share really quick here. We even built it into some social media stuff for you, templates and frames that you're able to utilize and show, hey, I did it again. Hey, under contract, and you've been working this with your own team while also simultaneously working your top level positions as you're going through different leading different positions in real estate. But it has its own unique flair of you in it encompassed. It's on your signage, it's on your social media. I've seen it on your walkthrough videos. It creates brand recognition, which also helps reflect you as an expert, which helps brand recall when someone's like, oh yeah, you're buying your flip. Oh yeah, hey, call Chris. It's something that sticks in your head rather than just posting up a picture of a home that says sold, or so it is that, like what you're saying, leveraging that consistency, reflecting that that expertise.
The stats always change, but it's like what I've always heard, right? Like somebody has to like see your brand at least 7 times, if not like 10 to 15 times, right? But if you don't have a brand, what are they catching on to? Just your name, right? I happen to have a really crazy, unique name, so maybe that's
It
memorable,
works.
right? I don't want to rely just on that. I want to rely on knowing that like they've seen my sign, they're getting follow-up postcards from me when I'm circle prospecting. If I call and leave them a voicemail or send them a text message, I'm stating that brand, and they go, that sounds familiar. They might not know why it sounds familiar, right? But it's that repetitiveness and that consistency, and then they see it on social media, or they see it in my email newsletter, whatever it may be. I have something that's like a hook that eventually will come around and hook them in, right? And one thing I think about too is one thing I'm really proud of is I get a lot of repeat customers, a lot of return customers, but in my lifetime, and two, I get a lot of referrals from those customers, like clients that I've helped in the past. They're sending their friends, their family, their coworker, my former coworker, things like that. It's a lot easier for them to do that and to recommend me when they're handing off that branding, or when they give them my information and they're going to do their research, right? Everybody now is like, they're not going to just call me out of the blue. They're going to go, let me see what this guy's all about, right? They're going to go do their snooping. They're going to do their internet sleuthing, right? And I make it so, yes, you're going to find my Facebook. You're going to find my Instagram. I want you to find my stuff. and then see, oh, wow, okay, this person has it together, right? They've got this branding and professionalism. If I'm looking to sell my house and I see that, like, okay, he works that hard in his brand, he's going to work that hard for me on my listing, right? If I'm a
Absolutely.
buyer and I'm looking to, buy a property, or if I'm an investor or whatever it may be, it's like, I want to work with someone that has all of that together versus someone that just has their name or just has a social media with like sold written across, that took them 5 seconds, in Canva or whatever it may be. And while you can probably get by for a little bit with some of the generic stuff, I feel like post July, post this, settlement going through, the competition is going to get really, really fierce. And especially if you're kind of a smaller producer or medium producer, like open for those big brands that have been working on their brands for years to take even more market share because they have already been doing it and they already have it established, right? But that doesn't mean that you should just throw in the towel. It just means like, okay, get your act together. Like we've got less than 90 days before this thing rolls out. And that's when you're really going to start to see this is ultra important that my clients can recommend my brand, not just me, Chris Anazuski, but my brand that I represent, that they've known to come and trust and can share that enthusiastically, right? They become my champion or my ambassador.
You're almost giving armor to your walking, talking best marketing are your clients, but them just saying, oh, you should call him. Here, let me text you his number. No, like it's more than that. Of course, they show up, they see it, and they're like, it's easier for them to pass off that referral, like what you're saying. That is amazing. And I want to show this as you kind of touch base on this. This type of tactic is, you're always going to beat it out. You just will. And when you see these tactics working on social media, it's more of like your internal circle saying, oh, congratulations, you did it. Great. And then it's gone. It's out of your head. And I love to call this red font fallback. And the problem with this from like a psychological state of mind, your brain registers red as like, and then forget. It's like eviction notice, past due. Those are actually geared for us to forget. So you're actually doing a really bad job of not helping yourself for future growth, future referrals, future leads that come to you rather than buying them. Like what you're saying, you're just getting referrals coming to you. It's easier when you're posting this expert way of this is how I do business. You're bringing a higher caliber. And so yeah, this in 90 days, if this is what you're rocking, I would absolutely suggest that you up your game because it does no future growth for you. So I love that you touched base on that. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff.
And I think it even goes beyond the ones that I mentioned, but even if me as an agent, if I get a client and they're like, hey, you helped me. My brother is moving up to Indiana. Do you know of any agents up there? And I may or may not personally know agents in that area. Just depends on where it is, right? And if I don't, and I'm looking for someone within my network or has a connection up there, I'm going to look at their business before I recommend because for me, I refer them out. I'll get that referral income if they close that client. But I can usually tell whether they're good or bad, at least on a surface level, by their branding. If they haven't established, like, oh, wow, okay, they're really kicking butt up there because I can see they've got this branding, they've got this whole look. That's the person. If I see what you just showed or something of that sort, right? It's like, because that person, if they're not even spending more than 5 seconds on their own personal branding on a deal they just closed, are they really going to spend a lot of time following up with my client, right? And it's all about the follow up, right? And then that makes me look bad because I've said this is a person I trust
Right.
to help you with your business decision that you've come to me with, right? And ask for a referral. So then it reflects poorly on me, and so I want to make sure, hey, when I send them somewhere, it's like, yeah, I'm sending you to the cream of the crop here. I'm sending you to the top notch people. So it's not just like public facing or in terms of that or client facing, it's also B2B business, right? Ultra important there.
See, and again, I love that you even highlighted that because nowhere in there really your first and foremost was all about the client-centric approach. And that was what I introduced you with. You weren't just like, hey, that affects my commission if they don't close it. Like that wasn't even there. You're just like, no, like I want to make sure they close the deal. And like if you came to me for the referral, I want to set you up with success. And this is how I determine whether who I'm referring out. And of course, it is business to business, and it absolutely will affect your referral commission. But when you're first and foremost of thinking of that client, it's amazing. I love the way you approach real estate, and it's not a lot of agents think that way. And so, yeah, kudos to you for being one of the amazing ones that really do, put in that extra work of seeing the broader picture, not just the commission. And so, good stuff all around. But all right, so we've kind of talked about all of how they're going to strategize and what they should be doing right now. And really, they got 90 days to get their shit together, lack of a better word. But if they're putting up just red, yeah, it's shit. So you got to get it together, get that structure underneath you so that you can really reflect who you are, what you're doing. I mean, so let me ask you this. If agents right now, are struggling to attract leads right now, whether they're buying them or just going off of referrals, is there any advice that you would say right now for them to do?
Aside from what we've talked about, building their brand and things like that, I think they really have to think about, what is my value proposition? What am I bringing to the table that is my strength? Like, what are you getting when you employ me as your representative? Whether that's a rental, a listing, a sale, property management, whatever kind of industry that you're in, and it might be outside real estate if you're watching this, but really have to figure out, okay, what are my unique value propositions? What am I bringing to the table? List those out, put those on a doc, write those down, right? You need to think of everything. And then you need to figure out, how are you going to circle your branding around that? And how are you, what items of value are you going to develop around those things? Because, for example, in real estate, we're used to doing a listing presentation. We pitch a seller. This is, I'm going to be your best representative when it comes to listing your home. And I know you're interviewing 5, 6, 7 other brokers, but this is what makes me different, right? These are the things that I've invested in monetarily. These are the things that I'm going to invest in your home, the sale of your home. This is how I'm going to make the process smooth. These are the connections that I have that are part of this process, right? That same thing is going to happen on the buy side now. You're going to have to go with a buyer presentation because, as we mentioned earlier in this conversation, right, it becomes more of a business decision and less of okay, I happen to know Joe and Joe's my brother-in-law and he does real estate. Now it's gonna be like, oh, well, I have to fork out $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, whatever it may be, for Joe to represent me, just like you would for an attorney, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I need to find out, how is option A going to benefit me? How is option B going to benefit me? What are the pros and cons, right? And so if you don't have those things ready to go, if I come up to you as an agent and I say, hey, what benefits do I get by working with you? And you cannot clearly, concisely, and easily name those things and convey that information to me, I'm going to walk to someone else, right? I mean, that's the big thing, is like, can you right now, this day, this second, this moment, clearly convey to a potential client what your value props are and what you're bringing to them? And if you can't, or maybe you kind of can, you need to work on that and really hone that. Not only list them out, but you need to work on that script of like, how are you going to convey that? Is this through a visual presentation? Is this through verbal conversation when I'm over the phone? If I meet you in person at a networking event or social gathering, how am I approaching that, right? And what are things that I can send? What are items of value that I can text to you, that I can email to you, that you'll find on my social media? Those are the things that I think agents really need to start honing in on, and items that will help convey that to them, because it's going to be ultra important. It's always been important, but I think a lot of agents have been able to get by, they've been able to skate by without necessarily having that. That's going to be a big change once people have to actually put up money for that representation, on the buy side.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's great advice, because they should be ready and prepared. They never know when that conversation is going to come up. It could come up at a networking event, at the bar, their waitress. Be ready with that info so that you stay in their mind of them being like, oh, wow, he was really knowledgeable. Okay, I'm going to reach out to him. So I love that you're telling this type of strategy of, list it out, rehearse it, get it in script. I don't care if you're in the shower, rehearse it, like just say it in the car, know what you're saying. And this is the value I bring. This is how I'm different. This is what you'll get different from working with me. And it's not just at the broker side. Yes, the broker has a lot of stuff, but individually, like you're saying, working with me will give you these connections. I know how to do this. I'm an expert at doing brokers opens, which, gives me more return on your value or your investment. These are things that people want to hear and know that, yeah, I'm well versed in the real estate. I've been doing this for a while. I love that you're giving direction for the agents to get ahead of this and time's up. Like, let's go. It's 90 days. So I love that. So
And this was actually a topic. Part of that was actually a topic that we had on my morning team call with my team this morning. And we have a few newer agents in there. And one piece of advice I gave to them is, if you're a newer agent to the industry, you've just maybe been licensed recently, the biggest thing you might be asking is like, I don't really have any experience. I might not have any closed sales, or maybe I have one closed sale, right? Like what value do I bring, right? But that's where you leverage. Make sure you're aligned with the right team and the right org, because you can leverage that, right? Like, hey, you don't just get me. You get a whole package. We have a whole team of XYZ. I've got a brilliant broker, got brilliant leadership. When you employ me, you're employing my entire team, right? And have that backing. And that's how you can do that. And just make sure you're aligned with an org like that. So that way you can leverage that. If you're floating solo on your own, it does become a lot harder. If you are brand new, align with the right team, with the right company, that you can use that and say that, because that gives you that trust and that professionalism. Go, oh, okay,
credibility.
new, but and it's like, hey, if I and be open about it. Hey, if I don't have the answers, I have so many people that I can go to get that. They're going to be there. You're going to be, working with them and that sort of thing. So
Good stuff. Yeah, I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in that team meeting today, because I know you're advising them so expert and you're just giving it all truth and clear and really connecting with them. So that's awesome. Oh, Chris, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I literally could talk to you more and more, but I appreciate you carving out time in your busy schedule and just shining your knowledge and your expertise. I appreciate you. And anybody wanting to connect with Chris, I'll go ahead and be sure to put his links down at the bottom so that you can follow his socials, see how he's leveraging marketing and branding to really set himself out of, the crowd, while also helping to grow a team here in South Florida, or well, Central Florida, South Florida,
South
and
Florida, Central
all the
Florida,
way,
Tampa,
Tampa,
all everywhere.
so maybe you want to join up with Chris's team, but I'll make sure that his links are down at the bottom. And then also my links as well I'll be having some virtual workshops coming up to help agents really showcase their value, their visibility, and leveraging buyers' presentations of showing, hey, what's my value? What am I bringing? And building that in and having that branding. So I'll be sure to pop those down at the bottom. Hope to see you there. And again, I thank you. I thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. I appreciate it always.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.